Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast is here. It is early October, which means puck drop is right around the corner. Belleville Sens preparing for their 7th season in the American Hockey League, and we'll be along for the ride all season long, in between broadcasts, of course, here on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. David Foote here. Brock Ormond is riding shotgun this season, and we're glad to have you tune back in for Season 1 of Episode 2. And nice to have you back along as well, Brock.
Yeah, great to be back, David. And feels like a quick off season, but hockey's back right around the corner, and that's what we like to see. And hard to believe it's been 7 seasons of the Belleville Sens here. It feels like just yesterday that they showed up when the announcement was made, and then now there's them showing up in 2017. And here we are 7 years later, and it should be another exciting year under David Bell, first year.
That's right. We will hear from the new head coach of the Belleville Senators on this week's show. We'll run you through some of the media availabilities from training camp this week. So we'll get the head coach, Dave Bell. We will get Angus Crookshank, fan favorite, back again. And we'll also hear from Garrett Pilon, who is one of the newest Belleville Senators, signed by the Sens in the summer from the defending Calder Cup champion Hershey Bears. So we'll talk to him about that experience of winning a Calder Cup last season and what it's going to be like for him to have to go back on opening night to Hershey and play against his former team. So that's all coming up on Episode 1 of Season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. You'll hear a little bit of action behind us. Day number 4 of training camp on-ice workouts happening here at CAA Arena as we record this from the Jack Miller Press Box and Media Center. We've got some season ticket holders in the house as well, and it really is starting to feel a lot more like hockey season now.
Absolutely, and nice to see some of the season ticket holders out to try and get an up-close and personal look at the team and what may be out there on the ice for Dave Bell ahead of tomorrow, Friday's preseason opener against the Toronto Marlies. Unfortunately, no actual games here in Belleville this time around, but still some fans, if they want to take a trip up to Toronto, they can see the game. But they're getting a chance to see the guys here today, and they're looking pretty good. It's a fast pace from what I've noticed, David, and very much looking forward to seeing what is in store for this group, because there's a lot of new faces here. You mentioned some returning players, and so it should be really exciting to see what kind of comes about.
Yeah, lots of these guys have been skating for probably the last month and a half, at least, if not 2 months, I would say, from working out on their own at home to some of these younger guys joining the rookie tournament in Buffalo, plus Ottawa's main camp, and now we're finally getting down to the point where rosters are being whittled down. Guys are starting to get a better idea of where they're going to be this season, and as Dave Bell told us after day 1 of training camp, it's about finding that AHL mindset, kind of reminding yourself that you're not at NHL camp anymore. You're here in Belleville. You're going to do what it takes to help the Belleville Senators be successful, but also keeping that goal of making it back to the NHL top of mind, because that's really what the American Hockey League is all about.
That's right, and you've heard guys already say it. Angus Crookshank said it for the last 2 seasons. His goal is to play in the NHL, and obviously that's the goal of everybody here. Garrett Pilon's only 25 years old. He got into a few games with Washington a couple seasons ago. You got Jabril Toure, who's one of the newcomers coming from Sudbury and kind of returning home. He played in the CCHL with Carleton Place and Hawkesbury, and Carleton Place, one of the best Junior A programs out there, so he learned a lot. He's now here after playing a year in Sudbury in the OHL. Just Levi Marilainen as well, one of the goaltenders. We got a kind of a sneak peek of him last season, so a lot of and again, another guy that played in the NHL. He got a stint in Ottawa late last season, so all it is just about learning from the guys with the top league and just seeing what you can develop into your game as this AHL season begins.
There's a handful of those guys this year that got a little bit of a taste of the NHL last season, maybe just enough to kind of wet that whistle and amp up that appetite, perhaps. Levi Marilainen being one of them. Max Gannett is another who is not yet even back in Belleville. He's been getting a nice long look up at NHL training camp, as has Rourke Chartier, among others. So we are seeing a lot of that connection between Belleville and Ottawa grow stronger, and that will be the case throughout this season and the next week or so, as well as these rosters get finalized.
Yeah, and good for Max Gannett, too. He's very well deserved to be up there and getting that long look from DJ Smith and the crew up in Ottawa. And it seems like a brand new era for this organization as a whole, really, with the announcement of Michael Andlauer taking full ownership of the team a couple weeks ago. You got Dave Bell in his first full season here in the AHL. DJ Smith still coaching up in Ottawa, but he's got a lot of good young guys that he can work with. And for the O-Sens, it's all about making that next step and trying to knock down that postseason door and get into one of those top 4 or 5 spots in the North Division in the NHL. And here in Belleville, they had a competitive season last year, and it's now just all about figuring out ways to really battle and come out on top in the North division of the AHL, which is always competitive with the likes of Toronto, Syracuse, Utica, Rochester, Laval, and all those teams. And Belleville's going to be getting a quick jolt of them in the next couple of weeks, playing Toronto and Laval this Thanksgiving weekend, but then starting out on the road in Pennsylvania and then on to Laval at home. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that all shakes down. But this Belleville team, looking the way they're looking right now, I don't doubt for a second that they could be one of the contenders in the league, even though they've lost a couple of good players. Some fan favorites from last year, too. Jake Lucchini, Scott Sabrin, and the like. And it should be very interesting to see what all transpires from that.
It certainly will. Let's get into the roster a little bit in just a moment. We'll take a short break before we get into the roster and that. One more developmental note. It's not just about developing players here in the American Hockey League, but staff members too. Former Senators player and assistant coach Ben Sexton among those promoted to the National Hockey League, and that is allowed for a couple new coaches, Chris Dennis and Nate McIver, to join the club here. We'll talk more about them after this very short break as we look at the training camp roster as of recording day, Thursday, October 5th. Stay with us on the Belleville Sens podcast on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.
Cheer on your home team, the Belleville Senators. Edge of your seat action.
Puck out of the scrum for Max Gannett. Walking in, firing, scores!
Saturday, October 21st, your Sens play the Laval Rocket, AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, at the home opener presented by CAA with a pregame fan fest, player red carpet, and fun activities. Gates open at 6. Full details on ticket options and more at BellevilleSens.com.
Go, Sens, go!
Continuing on the Belleville Sens podcast, Season 2, Episode 1. David Foote, Brock Ormond here, and after that little welcome segment, we're going to dive a little deeper into the roster, and we're going to hear as well from head coach Dave Bell, returning fan favorite Angus Crookshank, and I'm sure to be new fan favorite Garrett Pilon. All in this middle segment of the show this week. Reminder to subscribe to the show wherever it is that you're listening. Give us a rating and a review as we continue to build the Belleville Sens podcast. Any suggestions, thoughts, we'd love to hear from you as well. You can email us at info@bellevillesens.com. Just put the podcast in the subject line. And, we're always looking to improve the show. So any feedback you have for us would be outstanding. Belleville Senators and Ottawa Senators always looking to improve, get better year to year, and we kind of touched on it a little bit in the opening, Brock. This seems like the year that we're going to see some of the biggest jumps in that development, I think, at both levels that we have in the past few seasons. Yeah,
Crookshank and Jacob Larson, who was up there as well, just came back. Jacob Bernard Docker as well. Igor Sokolov, who is still knocking on that door. Those guys are the types of guys that can really make a difference for your team here in Belleville as well as up in Ottawa when given the chance. And like we mentioned, Crookshank and Sokolov and Bernard Docker had a couple of stints last year, as did Larson. Dylan Hetherington got in a few games as well. So it's never about the path is there for all these guys, and it's just all about paying good attention to detail and giving it 100% every single game you're out there. Not just that, but in practice, off ice, in the dressing room, in the weight room, everywhere. And we can really see, like we said about being a new era, Ottawa and Belleville really start to advance together, almost like one solid unit. And when this organization gets to contender status, which they're knocking on that door right now, they're going to be very, very dangerous. And a lot of these guys in Belleville, as we've seen with likes of Batherson, Norris, and the like up in Ottawa, are going to make that big difference.
Yeah, and part of the new era is here in Belleville as well, with head coach Dave Bell taking the reins for his first full season behind the bench as a head coach. Of course, he replaced Troy Mann midway through last season, had a winning record with this group, despite the fact that the Sens just barely missed the Calder Cup playoffs in 2022-23. But it seems like he's pretty settled. His new staff is quickly acclimatized to Belleville, and the plans are already in place, despite the fact that it is a relatively fresh group behind the bench for Belleville this year.
Yeah, and Dave Bell definitely got his fair share of chances for sure in the junior and pro ranks. Coach in Niagara, played a long time in the AHL and ECHL. Now he's here in Belleville, and he's got two new guys to work with. Ben Sexton, like you mentioned before the break, David, getting his chance up in Ottawa with DJ Smith's crew. So you got Chris Dennis, a guy that had some experience with the Kitchener Rangers. You got a guy like a Nate McIver, who is no stranger to the pro game as well. So those two guys, seems like they're all running in sync so far, which is really good. And again, it's going to take some time to get used to things, especially in a game situation, which is obviously, as everybody knows, a lot different than practice. But this bench crew is really going to be very interesting to watch. And Dave Bell is a smart man, hockey-wise, definitely has the intensity and the expectations necessary. He's not going to want you to lollygag out there for 55 minutes and maybe play 5 when you feel like it. He's going to tell you right away, you're there when the puck is dropped, you're there ready to go at 7:05, you're done at 9:30, and then you put in the work afterwards. And that's exactly what the forte and what the motto is for this this coaching staff.
We will have feature interviews with all of the staff members that are downstairs, hopefully throughout the course of the season. But for now, some quick hits from head coach Dave Bell following day 2 of Belleville Sens Training Camp. With the Belleville Sens head coach Dave Bell after day 3 of training camp, a little bit of a bigger group on the ice here today. How much of a difference does that make in terms of starting to get prepared for the season?
Well, it's nice. You can do some systematic stuff. Before it was just, some compete stuff. So, some of the new guys get to see some of the systematic play, and we can implement it, and we can work on it, and then continue to improve on it. So, numbers are good.
A couple of familiar faces back as well, guys like the likes of Cole Reinhardt, Kevin Mandalese. It must be nice to kind of see those regular guys back and be able to help maybe show the lay of the land a bit.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, obviously they're always disappointed that they didn't, stay longer in Ottawa, which you always wish they would. But it's nice to get those guys to the front of the line for the drills and, run in the dressing room because they know the routine. So it's nice, and, it's comfortable for them to take on a little bit more of a leadership role too.
How do you handle those types of players that do wish they were spending a little bit more time in the NHL?
Well, you love it. If they came back satisfied that they're here, I wouldn't want them. I want them to be hungry to get back up there, and that's the way they should be. So, you get them, to reset and do the things that they were told they need to improve on down here and get ready and hopefully get recalled and never come back again. That's our goal. That's my job, to get them up there and not to come back. So we're kind of on the same page. They're not happy they're here. I'm happy they're here, but we both want to get them the heck back up to Ottawa.
I wanted to get a thought on a player like Garrett Pilon, a veteran guy in this league, coming off a championship season. What is the hope that he can add to this lineup?
Experience, calmness, balance. I mean, he's played in the biggest moments, obviously winning a Calder Cup last year. But so the moments are never going to be too big for him in our season as we roll through. And then, he's a veteran guy that, he might have to play his off wing, he might have to play center, he might be up and down the lineup, and it's not going to bother him, it's not going to faze him. So just the calmness that he'll bring and just doing a job of whatever he's asked of, that's how he's made his career, of doing whatever's asked of him and doing it well. So that's a huge plus for me.
Yeah, and how big of an impact can that make on some of the younger guys in the dressing room?
Well, they'll just see that that's how you have to play and how you have to approach it as a true team-first guy, that some nights your assignment might be to just make sure this guy doesn't score or this guy doesn't get any looks, and you're not going to show up on the score sheet with it, but at the end of the night you won the game, and at the end of the season you won a Calder Cup, and he's going to be a great example of that.
And lastly, just generally, how do you feel preparations are coming ahead of the preseason games this weekend?
No, it's going good. I mean, obviously there's waivers today, so there's going to be some more transactions. Hopefully, if we get these guys down, we'll have to shuffle lines again. But, we'll go in and we'll feel it out in Toronto and see how we do.
So that's Belleville Sens head coach Dave Bell. And that was a little bit earlier this week ahead of recording this episode, getting set for the preseason game on Friday afternoon in Toronto. And a lot of kind of what we touched on already on the show this week coming straight from the coach's mouth, and really just kind of gives you a bit of insight into what guys are thinking and kind of the mindset coming through training camp, which can be a difficult time of year at the AHL level because of that factor of potentially being cut from the NHL team to end up here. It's a little bit unique.
Yeah, exactly. And like he said, when he sees guys come down here in the AHL and they're happy to be here, obviously they're happy to be able to have a pro chance, but if they're not a little bit disappointed or frustrated about not being in the NHL, then what are they doing here, right? And that's exactly what he pretty much said right out there in that interview he did with him. Is just all about having that hunger, that drive, determination to get back up there, and even getting another chance with another organization. Obviously, you want to stay here in a good organization like Ottawa and Belleville, but Jake Lucchini talk about him getting his chance in Ottawa last year. Then he goes to Minnesota, gets himself a deal there. Scott Sabourin in San Jose, and many others as well. But this Belleville Senators team certainly has that fire and drive, and you can see it in their practices. They're very, very up-tempo this week, and especially today where you can start to see the build-up towards this weekend when they play 2 preseason games to get ready.
And you mentioned a guy like Angus Crookshank, who we'll hear from in a couple minutes, about the players' mindset in dealing with that. And you look at the pace here, especially this morning, and you're getting – it's basically the second last group of returnees from Ottawa. These are the guys that were, this close to making the roster, and you can definitely see the chip on the shoulder, and that's something that Dave Bell and his coaching staff are looking for right now, that added bit of intensity and competitiveness that you can bring into a regular season. And, again, develop yourself as a player, do as much as you can for the Belleville Senators and help to make this team a winner, and that's a pretty easy formula to get noticed from the brass up in Ottawa. Speaking of players who are trying to get noticed, we'll hear from Angus Crookshank in a second, but let's maybe just talk about the native of North Vancouver, BC. Critical year for him. He played all of last season after missing all of the previous season due to a training camp injury. Got up over the 20-goal mark and really was a key factor in the Senators' success, especially late in the season once he got going. This is a guy who is going to have to be a leader, I think, on the score sheet for the Belleville Senators to be successful this season. Yeah, and he's still only 24 years old, so he's the type of guy that can really step his game up in the big moments, and his home is right in front of that net, right at the side, right in the front, and he also can work in the corners and in the pits and the trenches, as they say, and really give teams fits down there, opposing defenses, keeping them on their toes. And Crookshank, as an off-ice guy, he is a guy that really loves working in the community. He's been out at school visits. He's been, going to food banks and whatnot, and keeping his name and face out there so that people in Belleville will remember him long after he's gone and long after his playing career is over, too. People will remember the way you were off the ice just as much as you were on the ice. And for Angus Crookshank, it's all about building himself all the way around as a multifaceted player, and certainly a guy that has the right temperament for this type of a situation. He and Dave Bell get along real well, so looking forward to seeing what Angus has in store for us this year. And we caught up with Angus Crookshank earlier this week following training camp and the skates here at CAA Arena. Let's hear from the native of North Vancouver on the Belleville Sens podcast. Here with Sens forward Angus Crookshank after day 2 of on-ice workouts at Belleville Sens Training Camp. A couple of days with a light group, but how have you felt 2 days in here?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a smaller group, but we've been able to get a decent amount of work done throughout those 2 days. It'll be good to have a couple more boys come down, either obviously a few of them today and then potentially some tomorrow as well, barring waivers. But it's been good to kind of get back in the CAA arena, get back on the ice, get back wearing the B again.
How would you describe, I guess, your camp so far? Obviously, your time in Ottawa, and then getting into a couple preseason games there, and now being back here in Belleville. How has this been for you the last few weeks?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, I thought I had a really good camp up there. Thought I did what I could with what was given, and I mean, at the end of the day, they have a real deep team this year. So sometimes that's just how it worked out this year. I mean, I can't hang my head knowing I didn't do what I could, but at the end of the day, come down here, try to compete, win games, make the playoffs, all that sort of stuff, and try to help this team win.
How much different have the preparations been this season, the fact that you're coming off of a full season playing as opposed to a full season on the sidelines?
I wouldn't say any different. I mean, at the end of last year, obviously, it was different because there was a lot of unknowns for myself. I didn't know how everything was going to go knee-wise, whether I was going to be the same player, all that stuff. I like to think I answered the majority of that last year. Obviously, I still want to build off that, but I wouldn't say there was any sort of extra confidence. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm working to get to the NHL, and right now I'm not there yet. So I'm still desperate as all heck to get there.
You used that word confidence. Does the success you had in the AHL last season help to build that a little bit, knowing that you're here and you'll be starting the season in the AHL again? Yeah,
obviously just to know that, okay, I know I can play in this league. Whereas to your point last year, there's some unknowns. But I mean, we're slated to have a really good team this year. I think a lot of guys, including myself, are incredibly excited about it. And I mean, we already have such a tight group, as is we have a lot of guys returning, so we're already tight. And so I'm excited to kind of bring in the new guys and get things rolling.
Some new guys behind the bench as well, with a couple new coaches, and then obviously Dave Bell's first training camp as the head coach. How is that kind of compared to last season, or does it all kind of just feel familiar?
Feels pretty familiar. I mean, both the assistants have come in and it's been seamless. Like they bought right into the systems. They do a great job in meetings. They do a great job on the ice helping us with skills and all that sort of stuff. So it's been pretty seamless.
What are you hoping to accomplish this season? I know it's early in the year, but have you set any goals for either yourself or the club to this point?
I mean, as a club, we want to make the playoffs. I think we talked about that at the intro meeting. Bell's just said that's the standard. And it's unacceptable if we don't get there. So I think that obviously making the playoffs and hopefully making a big run. For myself, just continue to get better. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, like I said it before, I'm still trying to get to the NHL. So I still want to continue to round out my game and do whatever I can to help this team here and potentially play in the higher league.
And I guess lastly, this does seem like a group, like you said, that has that potential to make the playoffs. What will you guys need to do consistently through the season to make that happen?
I think just collective buy-in. I mean, we have a lot of guys that play a lot of different roles, and as long as guys are kind of sticking to their identity. I mean, the management here, they bring the certain guys in for their certain roles. So as long as everybody's staying within themselves, obviously continuing to get better. But, I think it's just a recipe for success because I think we have all the box ticked.
Thanks, Crooker. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, buddy.
Belleville Sens forward Angus Crookshank ahead of an important season for him and a handful of other guys as well. Cole Reinhardt is in a big year contract-wise. Igor Sokolov obviously was something to prove after signing that two-way deal, ending up back here in Belleville. Jacob Bernard Docker on the back end now has something to prove after some felt he was already penciled in to Ottawa's starting lineup at the end of last season. Didn't shake down that way for JBD, so he'll be one to watch as well. And of course, Brock mentioned earlier the goaltending situation. It's Kevin Mandalese, Levi Merrillainen, and Mark Sinclair right now. We're not sure how it'll look on opening day, but always important for goaltenders to try to make themselves noticed and be seen, especially when the crease is as deep as it is in the Senators organization. So lots for the returning guys to play for this season, and a lot of new guys coming into the roster as well, including Garrett Pilon, who we'll chat with in a moment. But you heard Angus Crookshank kind of say it there, Brock. Management went out of their way to identify and sign specific players to fill specific roles, and the areas that needed improvement, I think, were well recognized by management, and they were able to address a lot of those areas with some of their off-season moves.
Yeah, including the aforementioned Garrett Pilon, who has a little bit of an edge from his dad, Rich, who played years in the NHL with the Islanders, the Rangers, and St. Louis, and just the way that he plays, he's got such a tough exterior to him, but he's a guy that would give the shirt off his back for you and for the team. And you saw that in Washington with Hershey, too, last year. Going all the way to the Calder Cup final, you need those types of guys if you're going to win. No matter what time of the year it is, but especially when you're getting that close to a Calder Cup championship, and the Hershey Bears has certainly benefited from Garrett Pilon in particular, as well as there's a couple of young guys here in Belleville as well, like you mentioned, Toure on defense, and Mark Sinclair, Levi Merrilainen, and Kevin Mandolese all should hopefully get their reps this year. But Levi and Mark last year getting back-to-back shutouts. Of course, Sinclair's ended in a 1-0 shootout loss, but still, very impressive. And the goalies have looked very good so far in this camp. With how many saves they made and like the extensions that Merrilainen made on a couple of drills there. He made some just unbelievable saves. It's spectacular stuff, and I'm sure that Dave Bell is going to be very trusted in his goaltenders this year in particular.
Yeah, we won't ask him too much about goaltenders because we know he doesn't like to talk about them, but certainly he's got a nice stable that should add some stability to that back end. Some other new names to keep an eye on. Zach Ostapchuk is a two-time gold medalist with Team Canada. He joins the team after finishing his junior career with Vancouver and Winnipeg. Nikola Matinpalo is a Finnish defense prospect who has raised some eyebrows and got himself a notice. And Josh Curry, a veteran player who comes back to North America after spending 2 years in Russia. Spoke to him yesterday. He said, I'm looking for another crack at the NHL. I don't feel I'm done yet. I don't feel I've emptied the tank, and I've got more left to give. And he's more than happy to have made the drive from the East Coast with his wife and his young child to the friendly city, getting settled in here, and will be a nice piece of the leadership group, I'd imagine, for Dave Bell as well. These are guys, the Currys, the guys like Ryan McKinnon on the blue line, and like Garrett Pilon, that Senators haven't really had in recent seasons because they've been so loaded with prospects that have to play. Now you can surround them with those AHL caliber leadership pieces to really give you some depth and solidify things from top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely, and be very curious to see Matinpalo in particular. That name kind of isn't really familiar to those in North America, but he should be a guy that adds a little bit of everything in the back end, a nice two-way game, and some support, too, from a guy like Levi Merrilainen, who's a fellow Finn, Roby Järventie, who's very, very close to making Ottawa, and it'd be great to see him make it up there in Ottawa. Great to have him back here in Belleville, too, of course, but you got him for support in the organization as well. So I'm very much looking forward to see him. McKinnon as well, more of a stay-at-home guy, a guy that loves to muck it up a little bit, and joining in with some of these returning guys like a Sokolov, like Cole Reinhardt, and Dylan Hetherington, the captain, and just a bunch of other guys that really look like they're molding together well here in the early goings of this season.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Roby Järventie because, he's not here. He's still in Ottawa, and as Brock said, he's really making a strong case to start the season in the NHL, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. We'll have updates on the roster next week as we get set for the season opener in Hershey on October the 14th. Ottawa finishing its preseason schedule as of tonight. The day of this recording is October 5th, and then they'll make their final cuts and send guys back here to Belleville. Then it's up to Dave Bell and his staff to decide who's going to be here for opening night in just over a week's time. We've talked a lot about Garrett Pilon. Let's hear from him as we continue on episode 1 of season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast, one of the newest Belleville Senators. We're here with the new Senators forward Garrett Pilon, who joins the club after winning a Calder Cup with the Hershey Bears last season. Welcome to Belleville. Congrats on that achievement, first of all.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the process. You spent your entire career in the Capitals organization between Washington and Hershey. Obviously, culminates with that Calder Cup last season, and now here you are in a brand new town. What was the process like to getting to Belleville, and why did this seem like a good fit for you?
It's definitely was a team, I guess, that was interested in me, which is the first thing when you go into free agency. You kind of need teams like that want you, kind of thing. And I think as a group, they were looking to build down here in Belleville as well, and that's something that I want to do again is win. So it seemed like a good option for myself and just my career going forward. But I've been loving it so far. The guys have been great.
Yeah, what have the first impressions been like of the facility, the town? I know you haven't been here long. It's a little bit different than what you've been used to in Hershey.
Yeah, the facility's great here. Guys have been really good. I mean, the town, I'm from Saskatchewan. It's very similar, like small town sort of vibes. And, so I'm enjoying it and looking to find kind of some spots here, to some restaurants and all that, and, get a little settled.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of those for you to find for sure. How have the first couple days of camp been? What's it been like, I guess, trying to adjust to new systems, new coaches, new teammates?
Yeah, it's the first for me, obviously, entering a new organization, new philosophies in a certain aspect. So it is a bit of an adjustment, but just looking to kind of soak things up, talk things through, really start to learn, the ins and outs of the systems before the season here starts. And, the first couple of days is just kind of getting some of the rust and the kinks out from the summer, because there's usually quite a bit. So it's getting better, though, which is good.
Yeah. What else did you get up to in the summertime? How do you like to spend your free time when you're away from the rink?
It was a short one this year, that's for sure. I got home, I think, mid-July, which is crazy. But no, just I visited some family, obviously, and then just moved into my place. So it was pretty short, but obviously, I like to go out golf, do that, hang out with friends, go to the lake. Got a little bit of that in, but not too much. So yeah, right back into hockey.
We're chatting with Sens forward Garrett Pilon. You're a veteran player, 250 plus games in the American Hockey League. How would you describe your playing style, and maybe how has it kind of developed over your career, if at all?
Yeah, it's weird getting up there for games and all that. It doesn't seem like seems like yesterday, I guess, that I was a 20-year-old entering the league. So it is an adjustment. You start to learn a few things, and adjusting the play styles. I'm just trying to be a full 200-foot player, and those are I think the types of guys too that can help win hockey games, because there's guys that have obviously high skill and that can put the puck in the net, but you do need the guys that can play at both ends of the rink and help contribute where they can. So I'm hoping to just kind of be that versatile player for the Sens here, and do whatever is asked of me.
And bring, obviously, some veteran leadership to what's a pretty talented, I'd say, pool of prospects still in the organization as well.
Yeah, looking at the roster and stuff, I mean, there is quite a bit of youth in this organization, which is really good, because there's a lot of high skill, good hockey players, good people as well. So I think that's something that was exciting for me coming into this organization, because once you win once, you really want to do it again. So that's obviously the hope coming into this season.
And speaking of winning that championship, you'll get to be back in Hershey for the banner raising on their opening night with the Sens. How much are you looking forward to going back there?
Yeah, I spent obviously 5 years there and grew up a lot there, and fell in love with the town and all that. So I've nothing but fond memories of Hershey, and it's going to be definitely weird lining up on the other blue line for me. I mean, obviously there's a lot of players that have been through that in their careers, but it'll definitely be a first for me, kind of playing against guys that I was battling it out with at the end of June there. So it'll definitely be weird, but we're going to have to set the tone somehow at the start there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, being back there.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Thanks again for the time, and welcome to Belleville.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much.
And you can hear just from his candor and just the confidence, I think, just the attitude in general, that Garrett Pilon is pretty used to doing interviews, not afraid to talk to someone new, is already fitting in nicely here, and is pretty optimistic about what the season can hold. You win a championship, like he said, I just want to win another one, and obviously he feels like that's a possibility here in Belleville, which has got to be a huge vote of confidence for this group.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing, and you can tell he's still on that high, too. He sounds very upbeat, very jovial, and after just getting off, like you said, not a whole lot of time off, being that he ended in about mid to late June or so with the Hershey Bears beating Coachella Valley in the Calder Cup final. Just an incredible display from the Bears, and nice to see some of those guys winning out, and one of the older organizations in the AHL too, and with a lot of history behind it. And Garrett Pilon was part of that, and again, as they say, banners fly forever, and Garrett Pilon will definitely be a part of that. And it's so fitting too that he's back there with Belleville for the first game of the new season when they raise that Calder Cup banner. He just is such a hard-nosed guy and a good team guy, and you can already sense that he's really excited to get to work here.
Yeah, this roster is loaded up. It will be finalized in the week ahead, and then puck drop, as Brock says, in Hershey just about a week away. We'll take a short break, and then we'll chat some schedule, and then we'll get out of here for episode 1 of season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Stay where you are. We're back in just a moment.
Cheer on your home team, the Belleville Senators. Edge of your seat action.
Puck out of the scrum for Max Gannett. Walking in, firing, scores!
Saturday, October 21st. Your Sens play the Laval Rocket, AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, at the home opener presented by CAA, with a pregame fan fest, player red carpet, and fun activities. Gates open at 6. Full details on ticket options and more at BellevilleSens.com.
Go, Sens, go!
Couple more minutes left on episode 1 of season 2 of the Belleville Sens podcast. David Foote and Brock Ormond here in training camp practice, just starting to wrap up on this Thursday morning. The boys will hop on the bus tomorrow morning and head to Toronto. It is a 2 p.m. start in an empty building at Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto. Friday afternoon, we'll have the game on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network starting right before puck drop, right before 2 p.m. Won't be the full-scale broadcast that you can come to expect in a week or so, but the plan is to be there and to be able to bring Belleville Sens fans all the action from Toronto on Friday at 2 p.m. and Laval on Sunday at 1 p.m. Different for the Sens to be on the road in this preseason, but maybe not a terrible thing. You talk to a lot of coaches about being on the road early in the season. It gives you a chance to build some camaraderie and really, glue together as a group pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a good idea to have those road games and kind of get to know each other, on the bus and in the halls and in the dressing room, and get an opportunity to kind of see what you have in store in terms of what your teammates, how they operate, how they click, and the empty building in Toronto is going to be very different, to say the least. Almost feels like back in the era of COVID when there was no fans, but that's the way it is, and the teams will have to make their own energy and make their own sort of power in terms of getting a win and just developing first and foremost, really. The results are great, but developing and being ready to go at max % for October 14th is really the goal.
And who knows who's going to be in the lineup on the other side. Toronto Marlies, historically carry a lot of players throughout the season, but especially at this time of year. So matchups and things like that will be tough. I'm sure if we speak to Dave Bell about it, he'll say, look, this is just a chance for us to start implementing some of the things we've been practicing this week in game situations. Not to say that the results don't matter, but it's still all about learning and adjusting and coming together as a team over those 2 preseason games. However, just over a week from now, on Saturday, October 14th, when the Sens open the season in Hershey against the Bears, that game will count. It will matter. There will be a lot of pomp and circumstance to navigate around for the Sens that night, especially for Garrett Pilon, as we mentioned, as he visits his former club for the first time and they raise their championship banner. And again, who knows, maybe that'll be a little burr in the saddle for the Sens to see that early on. The next night, or afternoon, I should say, Sunday, October 15th, we're in Lehigh Valley against the Phantoms at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time. So the 2-game road trip to Pennsylvania to kick things off, and then it's a 4-game homestand to begin the home portion of the schedule. The home opener presented by CAA on Saturday, October 21st against Laval. Tons going on that day. The gym here at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center will have all the games and activities and bouncy castles and such for the kids. We'll have the player red carpet entrance starting at 4 p.m. you might want to arrive a little earlier than 4 to get your spot because it does get busy. And all the info on that at BellevilleSens.com. And then Wednesday, October 25th, against Milwaukee. And then the Marlies make their first regular season visits on Friday, October 27th and Saturday, October 28th before the Sens head east to Springfield and Wilkes-Barre to begin November. It's been quiet for a few months now, Brock, but that's done. The season's here, and it's about to get real serious.
Yeah, staff's been running around here, making sure the fans are all set to go, and you've been doing your work, David. You got, Brienne's here making sure everybody's in the right spots, everything's getting done the way it's supposed to be, and it's all really, really good, and you can feel the energy start to rise in the CAA arena now with this team back out on the ice, and the fans getting a chance to see practice, and that's a great idea to have the season ticket holders. We mentioned that towards the beginning, but great to have the season ticket holders in here to watch the team that they're going to be seeing for 36 games here in this building, hopefully more if they can make that Calder Cup playoffs, which was elusive last year, made it in that short series in 2022 against Rochester. But Belleville's hoping that, like you said, that game in Hershey is going to be the thing that really inspires them and sparks that hunger and that flame in them to gun for that Calder Cup.
And as Dave Bell said on the first day of training camp, it's playoffs or bust. Anything else is unacceptable, and that message seems to be getting through early on here at training camp. Brock talked about the season ticket members being here. Open practice is just one of the many benefits that you get being a Belleville Sens season ticket member. If you'd like more information, you can head to the ticket hub at BellevilleSens.com or email tickets@BellevilleSens.com for more information on season ticket memberships or any of our other packages outside of the single seats. But all that info, again, the ticket hub at BellevilleSens.com. Well, with that, I think we will wrap things up for episode 1 of season 2. Thanks again to Brock for dropping in, and he'll be here with us every week on the show. And also thanks to the players who've taken some time early on in camp to speak with us. Much more of that to come as well. If you keep an eye on the Belleville Sens YouTube page, turn your notifications on so you don't miss any of that content as well. One more reminder to subscribe to this program, rate and review as well, and we'll talk to you next week on the Belleville Sens podcast on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.